Dissociation has a bad reputation. It's often spoken about as something broken, something pathological, something to get rid of. But in high-end escort work, dissociation is not a malfunction. It's a skill. And like any skill, it solves a problem. It creates distance where distance is required. It makes intensity manageable. It allows presence without overwhelm. As the creator of the Psychology for Escort framework and founder of Psychologists for Escorts, I help exceptional women understand the psychological impact of their work. And like most protective mechanisms, dissociation works until the context changes. This is episode 5 of a 10-part psychological series. And we are now at the midpoint, where many of the adaptations we have discussed begin to show their long-term effects. And one of the most important of these adaptations is dissociation. Not as a problem, but as a solution the nervous system learned. Every protective mechanism begins as a solution. Last episode, we explored emotional labor, the work of regulating yourself in intimate contexts, of staying emotionally available without receiving emotional exchange. Dissociation is one of the ways that regulation becomes sustainable. It emerges when the nervous system is asked to do something repeatedly that requires distance. Distance from sensation, distance from emotion, distance from full personal involvement. In escort work, that requirement is constant. You are asked to be present without being personally involved, to be intimate without attaching, to be responsive without absorbing. That combination is not natural, but it is functional. The nervous system adapts to what is required to continue. And when closeness must happen without full emotional participation, the system creates a buffer. That buffer is dissociation. It doesn't shut you down. It creates distance inside the experience. Dissociation is what allows presence without full participation. And without dissociation, many women simply couldn't do the work. Not because they're weak, but because the nervous system has limits. And dissociation is one of the ways it respects those limits. Not by shutting you down, but by creating distance inside the experience. Dissociation is not leaving your body. It's not spacing out. And it's not forgetting what happens. Dissociation is selective distance. Not total absence, but partial buffering. Your awareness narrows. You notice less sensation. Emotion becomes contained. Intensity softens. You're still present. You're still responsive. You're still functioning. But you are not fully exposed. Think of it like a filter. Not removing the experience, but lowering its volume. Touch still happens. Emotion still happens, but in a quieter register. Dissociation doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means feeling is buffered. It's moderated. It's kept within manageable limits. This is why many women say, I'm there, but not fully there. I'm present, but something feels distant. And that distance is not a failure. It's protection. Dissociation doesn't remove you from the experience. It filters the experience. and filtering is protective. It keeps overwhelm from flooding the system. It allows continuity. It allows functioning. When the nervous system learns that full intensity is too much, it doesn't shut down. It turns the volume down. That is dissociation. Not collapse, not escape. Regulation. And because it works, the system keeps using it again and again until it becomes familiar, until it becomes automatic. And automatic doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal. I know this from the inside, not a theory, as a mechanism I learned to recognize it in real time, while it was happening. And it worked, reliably. It reduces overwhelm, it stabilizes experience, it allows consistency. And consistency is what makes performance possible. When intensity is filtered, the nervous system doesn't spike. It stays within manageable range. This allows presence. It allows responsiveness. It allows function. And when something allows you to function under pressure, your system keeps using it again and again. This is how dissociation becomes a skill, a learned response, a reliable tool. And skills improve with repetition. You become better at creating distance, faster at regulating sensation, more efficient at filtering emotion. And efficiency often feels like strength. You feel composed, you feel in control, you feel stable. But what feels like emotional strength is often nervous system efficiency. What looks like emotional strength is often nervous system efficiency. Efficiency keeps you functional, long after raw openness would have failed. Without dissociation, intensity would accumulate too quickly. Overwhelm would rise, fatigue would build, and the work would become unsustainable. So the nervous system does what it always does. It finds the most efficient way to continue. And dissociation is one of the most efficient solutions. Not because it's perfect, but because it works. At some point, many women notice a change. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just gradually. They are still working, still competent, still composed. Nothing looks different from the outside. But something inside has shifted. Feeling now requires effort. Pleasure feels more distant. Rest doesn't restore the same way. This is not because dissociation went wrong. It's because it stayed active. The nervous system kept using the same protection, even when full intensity was no longer necessary. Protection that works in one context can become costly in another. A protection that never switches off becomes a limitation. Dissociation was designed to help you continue, not to shape your entire emotional life. But the nervous system doesn't automatically know when the work ends. It only knows what has been repeated. And repetition trains response, again and again. So distance becomes default. Filtering becomes constant. Intensity stays tuned down. And this is where many women feel confused. I should feel more rested, but I don't. I should enjoy things again, but I don't the same way. It feels different. This confusion is not failure. It's adaptation continuing beyond its useful context. And that's where things start to spill beyond the work. This is where confusion begins, because dissociation doesn't recognize context. It doesn't know when you are at work and when you are not. It only knows what has been repeated, what has been useful, what has kept you functioning. So the same filtering that made the work manageable starts appearing elsewhere, in daily life, in relationships, in moments that used to feel natural. Now the conversations may feel flatter, connection feel thinner, emotions take longer to arrive, and this is often first noticed by others. Partners may say, like, "You feel far away, you are here, but not really here." Friends may notice you reacting less, laughing less easily, engaging less deeply. And when women notice this, panic often appears. What's wrong with me? Why don't I feel like I used to? Did I damage something? But nothing is broken. This is the nervous system doing exactly what it's learned to do. Dissociation is not selective. It doesn't ask where it should operate. It applies the same solution everywhere. Dissociation is loyal. It doesn't ask where it's needed. It does what it's learned to do. To reduce intensity, to buffer experience, to maintain stability. And that loyalty is why it feels so confusing. Because what once protected you now seems to interfere. But the mechanism hasn't changed. Only the context has. I want to be very precise here. This is not clinical dissociation in the psychiatric sense. It's not a disorder, it's not pathology. It's functional dissociation, context specific, learned, adaptive. Adaptive responses are the nervous system's way to solving problems. They emerge to help you function. They reduce overwhelm. They maintain stability. And because they work, the system keeps them. But adaptive responses don't disappear just because circumstances change. They remain until something new is learned. You don't snap out of dissociation. You don't force it away. You renegotiate it, gently, gradually, through awareness. And awareness alone doesn't remove protection. It creates choice. You don't remove protection, you teach it when it's no longer needed. And teaching the nervous system takes time, because it learned through repetition. So it changes through experience. That's why patience matters. Not pushing, not judging, but creating new signals of safety and connection. So dissociation is not the enemy. It's not a failure. It's one of the ways the nervous system keeps you intact. It allowed presence when full intensity would have been too much. It made continuation possible. It solved a real problem. But like all protective adaptations, it was never meant to be permanent. Protection that stays active beyond its context eventually becomes a cost. And that cost is not dramatic. it's subtle. It shows up as distance, as muted feelings, as effort where ease once lived. And none of these means something is wrong with you. It means your nervous system did exactly what it learned to do. It protected, it adapted. And now, awareness gives you back choice. Not to force feeling, not to push change, but to gently teach the system that safety can exist without distance. Dissociation works until the moment you want to feel again.